Hi, this morning I will address what is called the Geodiversity Day, the annual Geodiversity Day. It is observed by the geoscience community all across the world and was instituted by the UNESCO in 2021. Well, I would say that finally UNESCO also realized that geodiversity is as important as the biodiversity. For some reason, all across the world, the policymakers and the administrators give a backbench seat to geologists, geological processes, and so on. For example, what the geoscience community failed to impress upon the general public, or let us say the concerned public, with our mind, people with a concerned mind about the importance, the vitality, the essentiality, etc. of geodiversity for the wellness, welfare, social advancement, industrial advancement, and let us say, finally use a modern phrase, the so-called GDP of a state or a nation. Well, what most people never realized is the backbone of the industry, industrial production, construction of infrastructure, including housing, transportation infrastructure, water supply, and so on, had to rely very deeply on what is called the geological materials. The geological diversity, as UNESCO calls it, the geodiversity is something that is essential or the primary fuel for the welfare of the humankind and even the members of the biological community. In other words, when you say geodiversity, or when I say geodiversity, what it means is it is the geological material that covers the Earth's surface. What is the Earth's surface? 216 or 206 or whatever number of countries in the world. And where are they located? They are located in the oceans as small island nations, or in the major continents where huge population lives comfortably or with less comfort for centuries, for millennia, or maybe, let us say, for the last 200,000 years, when the radiation from the human population spread out from Africa to Europe, toward Asia, and finally toward North America. So the so-called, I should say the geodiversity is something which is actually the lowest in the minds of the people. Because the initial things you worry, a person worries, a nation worries, is the food and their immediate comforts. Living a shelter from the, away from, actually, away from the nature's different styles of manifestation. Nature is always working on its own schedule, not on human schedule. So the natural system actually is dotted by occasionally some kind of very vibrant activity or very violent activity, like for example earthquakes, floods, droughts, to name a few, and volcanoes. Volcanoes actually, among all these, is, I would say, as a geoscientist, the least harmful thing, because volcano is a phenomenon which will give sufficient warning time for people under threat, villages and towns under threat, to evacuate or run away from. The other extreme is the earthquake. As far as the earthquake is concerned, the earthquake will all of a sudden strike any part of the earth. Whether it could be in the ocean, it could be in the continents. In either case, even today, with all the scientific advancement, our warning system is developed definitely, but not as what we desire now. In other words, we should be able to predict the strike of an earthquake at least days or hours ahead. That is not possible. In other words, that is the way the system works. But the point is, this is actually these two are examples of geodiversity. Now, in between, we have the beautiful landscape. Go to the Alpine mountains or the Himalayan mountain belt, or go to Kerala or Tamil Nadu. Look at these Western Ghats, whether it be from eastern side or the Western Ghats or from the western side of the Western Ghats. We have the lofty Western Ghat mountains, then we have the foothills, then we have the midland, then we have the coastal land. A beautiful setting. Setting in the sense, altitudinally it is very exciting to look at. Whether you look at it from the Agastya Kudam or you look at it through the window of your airplane seat. And in either case, you see this beautiful landscape. Then it is actually rocks and the minerals that constitute rocks. That is what helps, that is what contributes to the geodiversity. We have the variety of rocks covering the Indian subcontinent and the Himalayas and Himalayan foothills and the Indo-Gangetic plain. And look at for example, the Deccan Traps. It is one of the largest lava flows that had happened 65 million years ago in the Indian peninsula. And now look at the soil that is developed, the soil cover on Deccan Traps. Our soil cover derived from laterite in Kerala, or the soils of the Tamil Nadu semi-arid terrain of Tamil Nadu, or the deltaic regions of Tamil Nadu, Kaveri Delta, for example. These are all wonderful places, diverse, highly diverse geologically, highly diverse. They're based on their use, ultimate use, end use, and they are also best places for one or other type of farming or agriculture. So the soil that makes a cover, a thin cover, veneer over these rocks, that is also very important, and the soil is part of the geodiversity of the earth. So you go from soil to the rocks underneath, and then of course we don't go deeply beyond the rocks underneath. because very difficult to see. And then look at the minerals. The minerals are never distributed uniformly across all continents or even within the same continent in the same proportion in the different regions of the continent. That is what adds to geodiversity. In other words, geodiversity is as important as, or even more important compared to biodiversity. This is actually what is forgotten. In other words, if there is a biodiversity based disaster, it could be overcome soon. And it is never as devastating as a geodiversity based disaster. For example, look at the recent landslip that happened in Wayanad. But when you say Wayanad landslide, geographically or administrative division wise, the landscape belonged to the origin of the landslips that actually is in Wayanad, but actually it happened within the Chaliyar river basin toward the origin of Chaliyar. And this, in fact, most people never understood that Chaliyar river basin has been the area or the headwaters of the Chaliyar river basin. They were the places which led to this disastrous landslip, which eliminated at least 300 lives, plus, of course, deposited large volumes measured or estimated in billions of cubic meters of soil, rock, and mud. And the question basically is, it all happened the triggering mechanism was definitely the heavy rainfall. But what else was there? It is like actually a dinner. Everything is ready. Only thing is you have to start off eating. So similarly, the entire area, the valley, which was affected most, that portion was actually the right of way of a natural system, which the humans ignored totally. Human mind, I'm not saying is very greedy, but our choices of where to live, where not to live, is not at all based on what is called science, especially geoscience. And what most of the time drives the mind is God. I'm not saying, people will let you ignore God. You can have your own faith in God, absolutely no doubt. The only problem is, while bestowing all our efforts, all our belief, all our investment in the name of God or believing in God and doing wherever you wish to do will not work, will not jive with what is called the geodiversity structure or framework of that region. So this is something which we have to relearn. Well, relearning is very difficult because that's the way it is. Relearning takes a lot of effort, and it is very difficult to make people relearn what they learned already. At least that a certain generation will not get retrained. Probably the succeeding generations will have a better understanding of what to do, where to do, and where not to do, when not to do. So, for example, what I mean to say is, without geodiversity, why would you go for rocks and minerals? One of the things we have to keep in mind is, India is a country with the second largest network of roads in the world. Yeah, most people don't know it. But how do you maintain a road? Well, People will say that yes, we can use concrete. Well, where does it come from? You'll have to go mine it. You'll have to go quarry it. You'll have to go collect the ore and take it to the blast furnace to make steel. And reinforced concrete is very important in the construction of all modern facilities. So, take for example a desert. For example, Rajasthan desert. In Rajasthan is a large area which is covered under sand. There is no geological diversity. It's all sand. Well, of course, if you go to a closer inspection by foot, you will find a non-sandy area. But in general, it is all sand. What is the use of sand? Practically nothing. But don't they want to build homes? Well, they will have to look for stone. And now, when Maharajas used to live in very comfortable houses, the stone was enough. Now, thousands of people, thousands of homes are to be built, and therefore, those homes have to be built of concrete. Where do you go for concrete? Your steel has to come from Bihar or Madhya Pradesh. The cement will have to come from Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, or even Tamil Nadu, or cement, sorry. So anything that makes our life comfortable and desirable, and people cherish the life they carry on with, that needs a huge investment of the natural resources. Unfortunately, this is something that is very not cleverly ignored. People are ignorant of. So I will say that the geodiversity is as important or even more important than our biodiversity. Unless we have correct rocks, unless we have a congenial climate, and then we will not have a good soil. And a good soil is essential, like anything, for any kind of crop, or tree crop, or vegetation to survive. I don't have to underscore the importance of biodiversity, but my point is our biodiversity will shrink to zero, cipher, if our biodiversity also shrinks to cipher. Luckily, all the continents have varying degrees of geodiversity. In other words, our rocks making up the continents, they range in age from Precambrian or to the most modern Anthropocene. In other words, Earth is as old as 4.5 billion years. And the soil we find here, the laterite we find here in Kerala, that is probably only 65 million years before present, the laterite. And the soil formed on the laterite will be ranging anywhere between, let us say, 10,000 to 20,000 years. In other words, we had the monsoon that enabled the formation of laterite and then the soil. So this is the time scale, the time frame that is actually used in looking at the geodiversity is not the human time scale. So we are totally incapable of visualizing the very long time taken for all these geodiverse crust of the earth, geodiverse crust of the earth that came in and existed, which later on supported the humanity. For example, look at the Himalayas. The Himalayas, 65 million years ago, there was an ocean, where now the Himalayas are. This is actually the Himalayas is actually the product of the Indian peninsula crashing under, hitting under the so-called Sea of Tethys and elevating or lifting up the sediments that filled the Sea of Tethys, which is now the location, fairly the location of the Himalayas. And keep in mind one other thing, that the continents are never quiet. The Indian peninsula perhaps is the longest traveled continental crust in the planet Earth. At least 6,000 kilometers the peninsula had to travel from the original position part in the southern hemisphere, crossed the equator, and finally now sits where it is sitting today. So geodiversity is a slogan which is a soft reminder by the UNESCO. And the first geodiversity annual day was inaugurated in 2021. Well, then this is actually a decision by UNESCO, and like every other such observance, this year it is the conservation of geodiversity for the sustenance of our society. That is the slogan. And there are several programs, a handful of programs that are proposed by the UNESCO. For example, walking toward a geodiverse or a geologically interesting site as an excursion, or walking to a geo-heritage site. In other words, for example, where the societal, or let us say Yadakal cave, where rocks are the base on which the old, in the Stone Age people or Metal Age people have written or copied or drawn the sceneries they saw from the cave, and the caves are the only places where people used to take shelter in the Stone Age days. In other words, there was no homes or buildings of any sort. So during the leisure time, they keep on doing some kind of glyphs. In other words, writing on this stone surfaces. So march or a visit or an excursion to such places, or even a visit to a mine. For example, in Kerala now, the very interesting thing is, most people are very, very much angry about quarrying. But the only thing they don't remember, keep in mind, is their own home, if they owned a home, and then the very home itself had consumed a lot of quarried material from the local quarries in their own district. So without earth-derived materials, there is no permanent, what I call as cultural or social or infrastructural development for the humanity. So before we relegate and discredit such mining activities, you have to keep in mind that without the stones and minerals, we have no medicines, we have no cars, we have no homes, and we have no canned food. So let us say hail to the Geodiversity Annual Geodiversity Day 2024. Thank you.